This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
Hello and welcome to the Unstoppable Indians. Every week we take a journey into the life of an outstanding Indian, a person whose talent, acumen or moral example is transforming India. The best, the finest from every field join me, Manvi Dhillon, on this show to share their life story, their journey to success, some of the knocks along the way, what made them get up and keep going, what makes them an unstoppable Indian. My guest today heads India's most valuable financial institution, the country's largest private lender. He's the reason that you and I can take an ATM for granted because he has this incredible ability to spot changing trends way before anyone else. Yes, I am talking about KV Kamath, Managing Director and CEO of ICICI Bank. He's held that position for over a decade, and what a decade it's been. Mr. Kamath, thank you very much for joining us on the Unstoppable Indians. It's a pleasure to be here at the hub of it all, the ICICI Bank headquarters in Mumbai. Thank you very much for joining us on the Unstoppable Indians.
Thank you.
You know, I've used some descriptions of ICICI Bank, most valuable financial institution, the largest private lender, but I want you to describe it because I really want to see it through your eyes.
Yeah, we would like to be remembered as an innovator. I think the time when banking was a state business in India, I'm going back 10, 12 years, technology had not touched banking, and the consumer really wasn't part of the focus of banks. I think we took a brave step that this is all going to change, and this is all going to change because India is changing, and innovation is going to be driving this change. I think I'd like to believe that that is what has made a difference.
Do you get amazed sometimes? I mean, it's only been 12 years and you've been steering the change, but do you honestly sometimes get amazed by how much change has been achieved within this group in 12 years?
Indeed, I think change on several fronts, change in around us in the national context, whether it is the way business is done, whether it is in the infrastructure that is available to do business, the growth paradigm that is now being set, or in our own businesses, the widening scope of business, the product portfolio that is proliferating, the reach that is being created, and suddenly affordability that is kicking in, making the consumer today able to buy what he or she needs. I think all this is at truly rocket speed.
But you know, many consider you a fortune teller because, like I said in my introduction, you have this ability to see that that change is around the corner. Tell me, is it an instinct or is it something that comes from years of study of your work?
Yeah, I think it's the ability to observe things around you, nothing more than that. And I guess that this maybe trait I developed when I was in Southeast Asia. The 8 years that I spent mostly with the Asian Development Bank got me to see China, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, the good and bad of how you grow and what challenges you face. And one thing struck me then, and I think that was the bedrock of a lot of things we did in ICICI Bank, that as incomes grow, and the first threshold I saw was $500 per capita, suddenly transformation starts happening, and people want a home, people want things to drive around, people want things to put in their home, and they look out for loans to make these happen. So we saw an opportunity. As you go to $1,000 per capita, infrastructure starts happening. So I thought to myself, these things have to happen in India. And if they have to, then are we preparing ourselves for it? And I think that's where the whole move in terms of ICICI Bank, creating a brand identity for itself, the identity that you see today, and creating those retail products started to happen going back maybe 8, 10 years. The technology bit was not connected to what we saw or one saw in the Far East. The technology bit was related to what one saw happening in the West. And if you remember, 96 onwards was the dot-com era, the so-called dot-com era. And maybe we looked at the good things that the dot-com era had to bring to us. And we picked on those good things and tried to build our models around those. And the good things were better connectivity, a larger number of people accessing channels which they never did before, and the ability to bring down costs using these channels. I think these are the things that we saw happening.
And have shaped, in a
And have
sense,
shaped our destiny.
ICICI Bank as we know it today.
Our destiny.
You know, we want an early tip-off then. What's the next big thing that's going to happen in the financial sector?
I think it's going to be beyond the financial sector. The next big thing has to be rural India. Maybe we are a little early today to say rural India, and I don't mind being a little early, because then you are prepared. The reason I'm saying this is that, as I said, we crossed $500 per capita, and things started to happen in urban India. I think $500 in rural India will happen in the coming 2 years or so. As that happens, what urban India asked us to deliver, rural India is going to ask us to deliver. Can we deliver that? I think this is, to me, the most exciting part, because you then have a huge challenge. What technology to use? How do you go and serve this customer, and so on? And technology is keeping pace. Technology is not the same that we had 10 years back. So I think we're in for a very exciting period.
You know, you're talking about the next big thing, and that being rural India, and that in itself sounds, you know, a formidable job to take on, but I'm sure you've already got the process fully underway at ICICI Bank. In any of these business decisions or moves that you have initiated, has there been a time when you sweated right till the very end, till there was that happy ending?
I think a lot of sweating really happened when we first decided to change tracks from being a project finance lender to a consumer credit lender. This was in the late 90s. One, we had no choice. B, you were taking a decision to move into an area where you had no expertise. I think that was the most difficult period of, I would say, in our history. And the board also, in a way, knew that this was a huge challenge and a decision had to be taken. But I think the board stood by us, and I guess that that made all the difference. I think everyone sweated those days.
Now, of course, agility is also one of the cornerstones of the ICICI Group. And, you know, you're famous for the fact that you can take a business, new line of business from the drawing board to the market in 90 days. Tell me, is it really 90 days? Is it actually as little as 90 days?
Going back 10 years, it was as little as 90 days, particularly technology platforms. You could build technology platforms in 90 days. What happened then was new models of delivery were evolved. You know, these models revolved around small teams, working in, cooperating with others, bringing in help from others to, work on a few modules and so on, and then delivering. I think we did that very successfully in a lot of the initial efforts that we did. As our own scale has changed, 90 days is a figurative thing. There are certain things, indeed, we max it in 90 days. For example, our first listing on the New York Stock Exchange. We were advised by investment bankers that it will take us at least 1.5 years because we did not have US GAAP accounts and so on and so forth and so on. We said 90 days, and we did it in 84 days. Then ICICI Bank went to the same exchange, NYSE. We did it in 64 days. So getting an issue to market now less than 90 days is a no-brainer. Rolling out new businesses also is a no-brainer. When we had to get the technology right for our Canadian business and our UK business, 63 days is what it took us. We were told a year. We did it in 63 days. But as you get bigger, the challenge is going to be steeper. But today, 90 days becomes a nice way of putting an objective before a team and saying this is what you need to do.
And you can benchmark yourself to that, really. I mean, I'm sure there are concessions for more challenging assignments. You know, in business, KV Kamath is described as an aggressive businessman. When we see you in front of us, you display no obvious signs of aggression. What is aggression in business? What is aggression in business?
I think aggression is hunger, hunger to serve. And we come from that mindset, hunger to serve, not hunger to necessarily grow ourselves. And serve could be in a wide variety of things in terms of the products you offer your customer, the way you offer these products to the customer, the challenge to serve at a lower cost, and so on. I think that's what makes you look aggressive. You're right. I do not necessarily display signs of aggressiveness. Maybe the other way to look at it is that goal setting. We are aggressive in terms of the goal setting that we do. People sometimes believe these goals are not achievable, and when you hit the goal or when you are near to hitting the goal, we raise the goal post again, or the bar again, and that again is taken as aggression. I think this, to me, is the hunger to serve, coupled with something else. I think a restlessness that, as far as India is concerned, we all need to run. We cannot afford to walk because there is so much to do, and so many people to serve. that you cannot afford complacency or a lack of speed. I think all this put together sometimes is constituted to be aggressiveness.
You know, setting tough goals, raising the bar constantly on those tough goals, teaching people around you and making sure that you yourself run. All of this has actually created a set of leaders that the rest of corporate India is very envious of. Your leadership team within the ICICI group, I'm sure many corporates have asked you, how do you do it? I'm going to ask you a simple question. I'm sure it has a complex answer. How do you build these kind of leaders, so many of them, so many stars within a team?
Yeah, I guess that the simple answer, a one-line answer, is build a meritocracy. But you know, getting to build a meritocracy is not a one-line answer. It's a huge challenge. But truly, we built a meritocracy. We consciously worked on building a meritocracy. That was the first thing, so that you knew, what was what. And thereafter, you went to picking people who had potential, who could lead. And one yardstick we have used is try to pick people with the entrepreneurial ability. That doesn't mean that if you pick 10 people or 10 different jobs, everybody has the same abilities. I think that would be disaster. So you need to have people with various skills, but everyone with a deep, I would say, heart or stomach for doing things in an entrepreneurial way, building businesses, visioning right, and so on. I think it was a challenge initially to pick people because you had to do it on a clean slate, as it were. I think over the years, what has happened is my colleagues have made this into a process. So I would say meritocracy has been put into a process format where you have ways in which you go about digging merit and then making sure that merit blossoms and you are able to get this slate of leaders.
You're lucky you've been able to institutionalize it. I'm curious as a woman at the women leaders that you've groomed, because they are an inspiration to all working women in India today. Was that deliberate?
It was not deliberate at all. I think it is a part of that meritocracy. And I think the credit for this goes to my predecessor, Mr. Wagul, because I think the women leaders in ICICI were very obvious since before I came in. And all that we did was made sure that that meritocracy continued. And I would believe that if you have a true meritocracy, you should have gender neutrality. And then you will see the proportion of women leaders that we are seeing in ICICI Bank today. And that's the way it should be. I am not an advocate of differentiation at all. And equally so, if you were to ask my colleagues, the women colleagues in ICICI Bank, whether there should be differentiation, you will get an emphatic answer, no. All we need is to make sure there is a merit-driven system and there is neutrality.